Most people have heard of daddy issues, but almost nobody talks about mommy issues. And that might be because the effects are harder to spot. A man can spend years wondering why relationships never work, why he falls for emotionally unavailable women, why he constantly needs reassurance, why rejection hurts so much, without realizing the answer may have started much earlier than he thinks. Not with a girlfriend, not with dating apps, not with modern relationships, but with the first woman he ever bonded with, his mother. Now let's make something clear. This isn't about blaming mothers. Nobody is perfect. Every parent makes mistakes. This is about understanding how early experiences shape adult relationships. Because childhood doesn't stay in childhood. It follows us into adulthood, into love, into attraction, into the way we see ourselves. Psychologists call this attachment, the emotional blueprint we develop early in life. When a child feels safe, valued, and emotionally understood, they often grow up believing they are worthy of love. But when emotional needs are inconsistent, things become more complicated. Maybe affection was only given when achievements happened. Maybe emotions were dismissed. Maybe love felt conditional. Maybe a parent was physically present, but emotionally unavailable. A child doesn't understand these situations logically. They absorb them emotionally. And years later, those lessons can quietly appear in adult relationships. Some men become people pleasers, always trying to earn love, always trying to prove their worth. Others become emotionally distant because vulnerability feels unsafe. Some constantly fear abandonment. Others avoid intimacy completely. The strange part? Most don't even realize why they're doing it. They just know relationships feel harder than they should. Think about this. If a child grows up feeling that love must be earned, what happens when they become an adult? Often they chase partners who make them work for affection, because struggle feels familiar, and familiar often feels attractive. That's why some people repeatedly fall for emotionally unavailable partners, not because it's healthy, but because it feels normal. The brain loves familiarity, even when familiarity hurts. And that's one of the most important truths in psychology. People don't always choose what is good for them. They often choose what feels familiar to them. Now, obviously, not every relationship problem comes from childhood. Life is more complicated than that. But understanding your patterns can be incredibly powerful because awareness changes everything. When you understand why you seek validation, you stop depending on it. When you understand why rejection hurts so deeply, you stop letting it define your value. When you understand why you fear abandonment, you stop chasing people who constantly threaten to leave. And that's where healing begins. Not by blaming your parents, not by blaming yourself, but by recognizing that your past may explain your behavior without having to control your future. The goal isn't to become perfect. The goal is to become conscious. Because unconscious patterns create repeated pain. Conscious patterns create growth. And maybe that's the real lesson behind mommy issues. It's not about your mother. It's about understanding yourself. The people who build healthy relationships aren't always the people with perfect childhoods. They're the people willing to examine their patterns honestly. Because the moment you understand where your emotional habits came from, you gain the power to change where they lead. And sometimes the most attractive thing a person can do is stop repeating the same emotional story and start writing a new one.